about the presidency, the National Assembly, the Senate, and all that. But then there are some people who actually think that it's about time we do a thorough cleanup, like hygiene in our political system. So that's exactly what we'll be talking this morning, need for political hygiene in Nigeria. The question is there really need for that or not? Especially when everyone is talking about 2019. Oh yes, 2019, but we still have, I suppose, 2 more years to go in this administration, as it were, before we start talking about the next election. But the thing about this country is the moment, the moment we win election, the next day we start thinking, we start talking, we start planning about the next election without even talking about now. I have Ogbeide Ifaluyi-Isibor, a political analyst, with me here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to have you on the program this morning. Well, do you think, in fact, first of all, I would really love to ask you, I mean, when we say political hygiene, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, hygiene basically refers to as the activities we carry out to ensure healthy living, to ensure that our health is maintaining of health. And political hygiene, therefore, refers to as the activities we do as political actors or political observers to ensure that the polity is, to an extent, if you allow me, hygienic. And sincerely speaking, many watchers, and I share the same thoughts with them, say that Nigeria is no longer at ease, and there are several flashpoints in which one would agree with such school of thoughts. The gentlemen before now were talking about the squabble between the executive and the legislature, and that's just is a pointer to the fact that there's very poor political hygiene in Nigeria today. And it is sad because if we look at it from the historical perspectives, from the independence, most African countries got independence between 1955 and 1960, 1965 from Ghana in 1957. We saw an Africa where young, vibrant, intelligent, and active youth took a hold of the future of Africa, from the colonial masters. We saw it happen in Ghana, we saw it happen in Nigeria. We had men like Nnamdi Azikiwe, we had Tafawa Balewa, we had Sir Ahmadu Bello, we had Obafemi Awolowo. In Ghana, we had the Osajo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We had Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya. We had Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. We had Kenneth David Kaunda of Zambia. We had Patrice Lumumba of Democratic Republic of Congo. We had a crop of young Africans who had a vision, who had a plan, who had a purpose for Africa, who had a dream for their countries, and they felt, let us come together, let's have our own government, let's provide a good education for our citizens, let's provide good infrastructure for our citizens, let's provide good health care for our citizens. That was a sense in which one can say that there was a dream for some political hygiene in the system. And that happened across Africa. We saw foreigners from the West and Europe come to Nigeria to go to school. We had Indians come to the University of Benin to go to school. We had people travel to the University of Ibadan, teaching hospital, for medical attention. There was some sense, one could say, there was some political hygiene at the time. But as time went on, those African leaders, or forefathers, so to say, lost track of what the vision was. And they did not succeed in what they wanted to do, because until your successor succeeds, you can't say you have succeeded. And that was how we saw a decline in political hygiene in Africa. Today, right from West Africa, where we have Boko Haram, go to East Africa, where we have Al-Shabaab, go to South Africa, where we have xenophobia, and now, African youths from all over the continent it's straight betwixt two as to what to believe. Do we now run to Europe, or do we remain here? Those who are running to Europe now are getting drowned at the island of Lampedusa. We hear hundreds of thousands of African young people die on a weekly basis trying to escape from Africa. to go to Europe, to be enslaved again, and to be recolonized again by those who will say colonize us. And that is because there has been very, very poor hygiene politically in Africa. But let us come to Nigeria and let us see that from the 60s, where we had agriculture as our main source of foreign exchange, where we had Nigerians feeding Nigeria through the 70s and the 80s, and what we have today is a complete collapse of the system. It's become a catastrophic disaster, as I would say. Now, Nigerians can't feed themselves. Nigerian hospitals cannot take care of Nigerians. Nigerian schools cannot educate Nigerians. And we don't have no infrastructure. And it's so sad now that we have political leaders across Africa. The moment you have a flu or they get sick, they run it back to our colonial masters for medical help. Can we say that after 50 years or 57 years after independence, Nigeria does not have one hospital that we can say, yes, this is a world-class standard? We do not have one university that we can say, okay, among the top 20 in the world, one is from Nigeria? We do not have infrastructure that we can say, yes, we have built infrastructure with all the monies we've gotten. It is so sad that look at food. Hunger persists so much in Nigeria today. I was reading a survey yesterday of food importation, in Nigeria, and I regret to announce to you and to Nigerians at large, in 2016 alone, 7 trillion naira worth of food items were imported in Nigeria. From milk to chicken to poultry, eggs to tomato paste, we import virtually everything into Nigeria, and that shows that there's been very poor political hygiene, because if we had it right from the beginning, we won't find ourselves here today.
Okay.
We have about the largest economy in Africa, and we have not been able to improve our lives. We've not been able to feed ourselves. We even import grass from Brazil in Nigeria.
For our cows. Okay, now you said something about the young leaders, the young African leaders that took over power. If you come down to Nigeria, it's still these same leaders we've had from 1960 till date. They actually started when they were much younger, vibrant, and you did say they had visions. So if really they had visions, we expect that the reason they want to come back and recontest the election is because, oh, they didn't get it right, or they made a mistake at some point, they want to come and fix it back. Would you still say it's the same thing? They really had visions for our country, for example, and that's why they're always coming back and back and back to want to fix it, forgetting that we have youths who are coming up. And of course, some time back, a leader actually said, well, that the youths of Nigeria are not ready, they don't have anything to offer.
Well, as sincere as I would love to be, we've really never had leaders in Nigeria, and that's a sad situation in many African nations. We've really never had people who believed in Nigeria. We never had.
But we had people who fought
they did,
for our independence.
They didn't succeed. They didn't succeed because they could not build leaders in their followers. That's because they couldn't pass the same mindset they had to those that came after them. So I would say that the forefathers didn't succeed. They succeeded in giving us independence, but are we really independent? Or why not? Did they believe in the Nigerian system? Did they believe in Nigeria? There were some who said Nigeria was a mere geographic expression. There were some who said Nigeria existed only in the minds of its creators. There were some who preferred to remain in Sokoto and rule over the caliphate than to believe in Nigeria. So did they really believe in Nigeria? The name Nigeria, where did we get it from? Was it not the girlfriend of Lord God who gave it to us? So was there ever a vision? Was there ever a plan? Was there ever a purpose for Nigeria? Sadly, there wasn't. And the leaders we've had from the beginning has been the same crop of people who come to seek power for themselves. That's what it has been. That is why we found ourselves in a box where we want to change leadership, thinking that would change the country, but it's the same mindset we've always had. That is why those who ruled 30 years ago want to come back, because the truth is that they don't see leadership in the system. They themselves are not leaders. And so it is all a contestation of power. That's what it has been. And for any person to have said that, oh, the Nigerian youth were a wasted bunch, I think it's as a result of that person's poor thinking. I don't agree with that. But there's a sense in which one must also agree that the African youth or the Nigerian youth would not risen up to our potentials, would not taken up the roles we should take up. Will I blame the Nigerian youth or will I blame the leaders? I think everybody shares in the blame. But I tell you the truth that today there's a crop of Nigerian leaders, young Nigerian leaders, who are ready to take up responsibility.
Really?
Yes, they are. And that is why we are engaging in such discussions like this. Let us educate ourselves. Let us improve our reasoning. Let us metamorphose our thinking from where it was before to where it should be. And I tell you, if we're able to educate ourselves, if we're able to sense, to improve, you see, it's a battle of the mind. Nigerian youth, or Nigerians generally, or Africans if you allow me, we've had this feeling of sort of low self-esteem. That is why, you know, we want to take a picture with a white man just to feel good about it. That is why when our presidents run to the to the West, they want to take pictures with the white men. And they bring something else and we're happy, as if to say, oh, we're making progress. But it's as a result of low self-esteem. And let me shock you, even the clothes that we wear, most of them are fairly used clothes, worn by people from the US and in Europe. Have we gotten to that level where we celebrate using fairly used clothes from Americans and Europeans? Even to underwears that were used by others, they bring them to Africa as a dumping, and we're happy, you know, to buy these things.
Because they are more affordable and probably last longer.
The truth is, that may not be it, because we have excellent textiles in Nigeria. Have we been able to develop it? Let me tell you something. Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, is about the wealthiest nation on the earth. It is said by observers that they have in their bellies natural resources worth $34 trillion, richer than any nation. But what is happening there today? They even import chicken from Mexico. They import eggs from Brazil. And that's the same case today. But I want to believe that there's a new crop of leaders emerging in Nigeria. I want to believe that there are young people who have educated themselves, who are readers and thinkers, who want to take up responsibility. And we may not get there all of a sudden, you know, but I think that it is a metamorphosis. We have started, we are laying the foundation. We may not benefit from it today. My children may not benefit from the new thinking we're trying to invoke. They may not benefit from the political hygiene we're trying to bring into the system. They may not benefit from the political ideologies we want political parties to have. But let us lay a foundation. Let the next generation prune it. Let the next generation benefit from it. That is how economies grow.
Okay. Now, speaking about our youths and their thinking, you did say, oh, they are beginning to think right. There's actually a platform I know very well, and what you see on that platform every now and again is they sing songs of politicians, they sing songs of leaders, and then you want to take a minute and ask yourself, isn't this person thinking about himself or herself? But what we get, I mean, why is that? Is it because of poverty in the land? Because we are looking at what we'll get at that moment, you know, to feed ourselves and our families and all that. So how do you think we can really achieve all this, you know, get our youths to really think about themselves and say, no, this time around, I am done carrying the bag of this politician. It's about time I carry my own bag.
You're right. You see, there's been a balkanization of Nigerian youth. We found ourselves divided along ethnic, political, and religious lines, and we now harm ourselves, you know. And this is premised, like I would say, on poor political hygiene that we have inherited from the leaders, you know. And now on social media, we've become very crazy, a crazy set of people. Fighting, and you know, the level of ethnic negativity in Nigeria today is alarming, you know, and which is the birth of corruption, poor political hygiene. And I will agree with you, and I'm also very guilty of it. A lot of us have relegated the need for our emancipation to the background, worshipping leaders who are misleaders, who have been horrible, who have gotten us to the level where we are today. And can we continue to do that? No. How can we stop it? Education. We need to enlighten ourselves. We need to educate ourselves. This cannot be the case. I mean, just before Trump came in, how old was Obama when he was president? How old was David Cameron when he was prime minister? How old is the president of France? We are seeing a generational shift in Europe and in the West. But the average age of African leaders is about 70, 80. Where we have people of about 90 years old, like in Zimbabwe, still as presidents. And some have said that African youth or Nigerian youth have not developed themselves enough to take up responsibility. And there's a sense in which we must agree that to a large extent that is true. But I also think too that it's also changing. You know, some are saying that we've not been given the opportunity to lead. Nobody really gives the opportunity. You take up responsibility, you take up the opportunities. And so I want to see a situation where social media operators, young people generally, now form a unity government of themselves. Let us come together. Let us put aside our differences, ethnic differences. It is so terrible right now, but we can forge a vision for Nigeria because Nigeria has no vision today. Let us agree on a plan and a purpose for Nigeria. Not for us to benefit, like I said before, because we cannot benefit from it. Who will initiate it? Just like those who fought for our independence. They're not here today, but they initiated it. For the sake of our children, I do not want my sons to grow up to see the kind of Nigeria I see today. But if we don't change it, it will be worse in their days. So we must agree that there's a problem. We must agree that we need to educate ourselves. We must agree that we need to change. There must be a change in the mindset of the average Nigerian youth to see that we cannot continue to do things the way we were doing it before. You know, Chinua Achebe said that when hunger knocks at your door and you tell hunger that you have no seats for him to sit, he tells you, don't worry, I came with my own stool. The average Nigerian home today, hunger is resplendent in our homes. Hunger, the poverty has become gigantic, gargantuan in our society. And that is the reason why many youths feel that they have no hope and they depend on the leaders who use them to their advantage.
And dump them afterwards.
That is actually what it is, because that's why you're being used. Because he will use you because he thinks that you have no value for yourself. He knows that you have no self-esteem on yourself. So he feels that he can use it to his advantage. But I want to agree that there is a set of young Nigerian youth, I'm being one of them, who will not agree to be used by anybody. You know, even if we support your political party or your political ideology, we cannot allow ourselves to be used. We must become stakeholders in the system. We must be brought to the dining table of civilization. For too long, African youths have been the food that is eaten at the dinner table of civilization. At some point, they were the waiters, while they watched the diners eat. But now we should become the diners too on the table. If we're having a constitution review, for example, if we're having a discussion where we're going to talk about the economy of Nigeria, we should have young people seated on that table too. There must be a cross-pollination of ideas between those who have come before us and those who are there now to see how we can invoke a more saner system for ourselves and our children.
Okay. I remember something the late Maitama Sule said in an interview years back. He said, during the period when they fought for the independence of the country, they used tribal, religion, sentiment, but to the benefit of achieving a one Nigeria. But today, we see it differently. You see one Igbo man somewhere saying, free Evans, because he's an Igbo man. And you see another one saying, free this Boko Haram leader because he's Hausa or because he's a Muslim and all that. I mean, is all this really hygienic for our political system in this country?
The truth is that the ethnic and religious negativity started from the foundation. No, it doesn't matter what Maitama Sule says.
But they've used it to achieve a one Nigeria. And Nnamdi Azikiwe, he was Igbo, but of course they tried.
Did they really believe in one Nigeria? Has there ever been a one Nigeria? No, we must get to the roots of it, the foundation. Was there ever a one? Did these men, these founding fathers believe in the unity of Nigeria? Did they really believe in it? And I regret to say that they didn't really believe in it. And that is the same thinking that has progressed through the decades. That is the same reason why Ojukwu wanted to secede. That is the same reason why they still want to secede today. Because they feel that, and I agree to an extent, that there is no one Nigeria. For those who are asking for, you see, we now have what we call our thieves. If he's from the South, don't arrest him, don't jail him. I'm from the South, so he's my thief, so leave him.
Yeah.
The Yoruba man too says, oh, no, he's my thief. That has always been the case from the beginning. You know, and that is why we have found ourselves in the disaster we've seen today. Those who are asking to free Evans because he's an evil man, that shows a decay in the thinking of our people. Exactly. That shows a decay in the reasoning of our people. That shows a decay in the education of our people. And it was inherited. That is what it is. So what will be the future of the Nigeria of tomorrow? Because the Nigeria of today is a disaster. And I tell you the truth, if we don't address the foundational issues, we won't be able to solve the problem. Trying to, or some are talking about restructuring Nigeria.
I was going to come to that.
There's a sense in which one must agree that there's a need to restructure. But then, what are you restructuring?
Exactly.
Was there a structure before? Restructuring means that you are putting together, or in a better frame, a structure that was existing before. But was there a structure before? Or are we just talking about wanting to have power, more power, you know, in regions? Are we talking about just being egoistic for us? We want more this, we want more that. That is what it is, really, if you look at it. So the clamor for restructuring, I think it should be given some attention, but then it is a lot more than that. I would rather think that the restructuring should be about leadership. Africa's problem today is a problem of leadership. Nigeria's problem today is a problem of leadership, not restructuring. If we have a president who sees himself as a Nigerian first, who has a vision for the country, who is able to unify everybody, who makes comments that are directed at unity, who makes comments that are directed at progress of the Nigerian state, we won't have people agitating to leave. But in a system where you are not comfortable with the terms, with the language used by the leader of the nation, then there's a likelihood of you wanting to feel uncomfortable about it and wanting to go. In fairness to President Buhari, I think there were some comments that were made by him or accredited to him that were not palatable for the Nigerian nation.
That was before the election, I suppose.
No, after the election, when he became president. I think there were some comments that he made. He may have made them genuinely, but those comments had the capacity to cause uproar in the system. Those comments had the capacity to cause agitation in the system. And whether you agree with me or not, that is what has birthed the agitation for secession in Nigeria today. Everybody now wants to leave because they feel that we're not comfortable as one.
Not everybody, some people.
No, what I mean is that the regions now, before just the Biafrans were talking about leaving. But now the Yoruba said, okay, we also want to separate, if that's what it is, because we're not comfortable with the unity. The Afenifere too are talking about secession too. Even the Midwest. Everybody is wanting to claim his own colony, to say, okay, if we're going to separate, we also want our own. And that is because there's been very poor leadership, if you agree with me, in Nigeria today.
I don't agree with you.
No, what I mean, I'm not directing this now at the president alone. When I say poor leadership, it cuts across board, even to the states. If your state receives social amount of money every month from the federal government, we must be able to hold our governments to account. What was done with the money? It is not okay for Edo State, for example, to receive 11.3 billion naira from the Paris Club Fund, and nobody's asking what was done with the money. We should know what was done with the money, because the money belongs to the people. There should be extreme transparency in governments. That is what leadership is all about. If you are using money to pay pensioners, okay, X amount of money was used to pay pensioners. X amount of money was used to do this. We should know what the money is used for. So before we criticize those in Abuja, let us start from home. The local government chairman must tell us what he does with the money. The governor must do the same. The president must do the same. So leadership as a whole has been a problem. And so we must now begin to initiate the change we want to see. Initiate the change in leadership. Young people must hold leaders to account. Whether the governors from my party or not, it doesn't matter at all. That is why I think that young youths in the APC, youths in the PDP, youths in the ABGA, youths in Labour, we may not all believe the same thing because we belong to different political parties, but we can have a single focus: the growth and development of society. Okay. If you put your leaders you put them on the hot seat, I put mine on the hot seat. Whoever becomes governor knows that the young people are putting him on the hot seat. He has an agenda for the future of the state. That is where we should get to. I do not have to decamp, to the APC to love Nigeria, or decamp to the PDP to love Nigeria. As individuals in our political parties, we can have a common vision for the benefit of the people, of our children after all.
Yes, I suppose that's where political ideology comes in.
Yes.
In the past, we used to hear, oh, Party X is for free education, Party Z is for infrastructural development, and but what we see these days is people no longer, they don't even believe. What they know is if Party X wins election, you see all Party Z's member, the camp move to that party. And then you want to ask yourself, what was it that even kept them in this party? I mean that is one of the problems we have in this country.
Lack of political hygiene. You see, politics ought to be a debate of ideas. Politics ought to be a contestation of ideas. But today, politics is a contestation of power. Let us get the power. That's what it's about. Yes, get the power, but to do what with the power? Our political system needs to be re-engineered. It needs to be restructured. We need to understand what a party stands for. The average Nigerian should know what a party stands for. It should transcend beyond an individual. If Party A dreams of fighting corruption, people know that that is what the party stands for, not the individual who's president. We should be able to build institutions. That is what it is about. So that even if the president leaves, it continues. It should be a metamorphosis. We should see systems develop today in Nigeria. Not individuals. We're not to build strong men, but strong institutions. So our political parties must sit down and craft out ideologies. They must sit down and craft out political pronunciamentos, that is to say, what they intend to do. They must be able to educate the citizenry. And lastly, on the issue of political parties and their ideologies, the Nigerian people need to open their eyes. It is not okay for us to collect monies to vote for in elections. It is not okay for us to be bribed to cast our votes. That is the lowest level.
But then they tell you, I mean, someone once told me that, oh, in his community, he built schools, graded roads and all that. But then when he needed to recontest, then he cooked and bought drinks and shared stuff. And the people were like, now you are talking. This is what we want. Not the school he built, not the road, not the electricity. So, I mean, how did it get this bad? We prefer it when they give us a bag of rice, salt, and that's for 4 years.
It's a triumph of mediocrity. Poverty of the mind. Poverty of the thinking. You see, poverty as in the hunger for food is a lot better than the poverty of the mind. Because even if the man has food in his stomach, his brain is poor. His thinking is limited. His reasoning is poor. So that affects his whole life. And that is where education comes to play. Education now not in going to school, but in enlightenment. We cannot continue to do the same things we've been doing and expect to have progress. It cannot be that way.
In educating now, before we go for the news now, in educating, I mean, who educates what? What was the last time we had information from the National Orientation Agency in this country, for example? We don't get to. So who educate? Should they all go back to school and start a kindergarten all over again? Or is there a body that should educate them?
Yeah, there ought to be a defined system, but we cannot rely on that. That is why we are having discussions like this. for educating the people. We need to have more discussions like this where people go about to sensitize the people.
Okay. Okay, we take a short break now to bring you the news update for 9:30, after which we'll come and wrap up the program. Please stay with us.
This is ITV. Certainly the best.